Hey, good morning, everybody.
Oh, that's us.
Yeah, welcome to KevinandFred.com.
.com.
This is the .com right here.
Right here. In between.
That was weird.
KevinandFred.com.
That was
So,
weird.
guys, how you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing? We decided we'd change the background look up here a little bit for you. We went a little bit more professional today. Did you notice that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, hey, we're going to jump right in. You're watching this about a week after we filmed it, but so I'm just letting you know. I'm just telling you up front. It's cool. Chill out. We're traveling this week. We had to do it this way.
Major
But
travel
anyway,
this
so
week.
today's Monday. You're watching this on a Monday. It's just the wrong Monday. But I taught yesterday at our church. We have a class we call Grow. And the idea behind the class Grow is that we're helping people, grow. Pretty cool concept, huh?
That's a catchy name for a class that's designed to help you grow.
It is. No, I like it.
Yeah.
And so
it's original at a minimum.
yeah, so here's the deal, Kevin. I taught yesterday, and the title of my teaching was a famous Gary Keller line. It's not Gary's line. Other people have said it, okay? But if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. That was the title of my teaching. If you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And it was really interesting. I started the teaching off. We did a little exercise. I brought out a whiteboard, right? Very similar to what we did in Recruit Select last week.
Right.
And we did limitations around grace.
Wow.
Kind of a fun topic. So our church has been talking a lot about grace recently. And it was pretty cool because the limitations around people and grace were interesting. Stuff like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah, that comes up a lot.
I'm not worthy.
Comes up a lot.
This concept of, well, I'm believing for something to happen versus something already happened. I already have it, right? That's a fun one. It's too good to be true. Like it was really interesting to see some of the limitations, if you will.
Yep.
And so it got me thinking around how grace is, like my definition of grace, or the one that I worked with yesterday, is grace is the power source of what God has already completely done. So grace is actually power. Most people look at grace as, oh, it's kind of this weak word, like grace is what saved me. Okay, yeah, you were saved by grace, but there's a lot more that came with grace. Like it's actually a powerful word.
Right.
And so whether you're a believer out there or not, I want to ask you to hang in there with me, because I'm getting somewhere that really has nothing to do with God or not God. It has to do with your life, and if you want more, you want to grow. And so it was interesting. So what I did is went into the book of Exodus and looked at the story of Moses, right?
Okay.
So for those who don't know the story of Moses in the Bible, Moses as a baby is basically saved by his mother because the Egyptians are killing all the baby children. So they put him in a basket, send him down the river, and basically he's saved, okay? And he grows up like in the king's house. Like he literally grows up being raised pretty much in the king's house. So he has all the best education. He has all the best of everything. Like his life is spared because he's not raised by his mother. He's raised by the enemy, if you will.
Right.
Right. And so it's interesting. Moses actually kills a guy. So he observes, because he's hanging around all the time. He observes somebody basically beating up on his people, and he kills the dude. Right. So it's interesting because, like, automatically in our society, when we think of somebody killing somebody else, like, we would pretty much say that person's worthless. What would our perceptions around that person be?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things. They don't care about life. They don't care about people. You could go on and on.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not a good person.
So Moses is scared to death. He flees, right? Goes into the wilderness, and basically God visits him sometime later in a burning bush. We've all heard this story at one time or another. Whether you believe it or not, you've heard the story. So God visits Moses in a burning bush, and he says to Moses, like, I want you to free your people. You're going to free my people out of Egypt. We're going to bring them out of slavery.
Right.
And so Moses, literally, his response to God is, his first things out of his mouth after God explains it is, who am I? And I thought for a second, like, how often is that great opportunities come our way, that great things come in our path, that somebody believes in us for something, our wife, our spouse, your husband, friends, somebody at work, in your real estate brokerage, your business, whatever, and somebody goes, I have this great opportunity, and the natural response is, who am I? Who am I? Now, we all have crud that we deal with. We all have crud that we live with. We all have stuff we've done in our past. I got to imagine that when Moses is saying, who am I? He's clearly thinking in his mind, God, I killed somebody. I fled that place, and now you're going to send me back in there? Like, that's not in the text of Exodus, but it's got to be going through his head.
You think it's at least a thought in his head.
It's got to be at least a thought in his head. Okay, I killed somebody, I left that place, and now you're going to send me back in there. I'm the messenger of God, a.k.a. the guy that fled because he killed some dude.
Yeah, guaranteed that.
Right, like, pretty interesting. So anyway, like, I'll kind of finish up the Moses. I'm going to keep going with this story on Wednesday, and I'm not necessarily going to go to the scriptures, but I'm going to reinforce some other stuff. But it goes on and on and on, and so, you know, Moses, God sends him in there, there's a plague, but Moses' whole response is basically, who am I? And he actually says at one time to God in Exodus 4, he says, I'm slow of speech and slow of tongue. Hold on a minute. The dude grew up in the king's castle. You can't be telling me you didn't have the finest of education.
Right.
Okay? You can't be telling me. In fact, Hebrews 11, if you want to read the story of people of faith, like, it goes through and talks about how Moses was raised in the king's castle. So it's just funny, but his perception of himself was small. And so on and on, there's all these verses where he tells God, but I'm of uncircumcised lips. He says that like 3 times in Exodus. Over and over, he continues to argue for his limitations. And I will actually challenge that it didn't take 10 plagues to get the people out of Egypt because God couldn't do it. I'll argue that it was because of Moses. I will absolutely argue it was Moses' limitations that caused that whole situation.
Yep.
And so my challenge to you is, if it's in Moses, if it's in other people, we hear it. We see it on Facebook. We see people argue for their limitations. We hear it in our classes. People argue for their limitations. If you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them, okay? I'm going to keep it at that for today. Come on back on Wednesday and Friday. We're going to continue this topic of arguing for your limitations. I am going somewhere. I may have turned half of you off. I don't care. Suck it up and deal with it. There actually is great stuff here to learn.
Come back Wednesday.
Come on back on Wednesday. We'll see you soon.